Hi, I welcome you all on this lecture on petroleum refining and petrochemicals. In this lecture, we are going to know about how the Indian petroleum industry prevailing in India, what are the prospects and futures of Indian petroleum industry, how it is explored, what are the composition of crude and classification of crude oil, um, such type of things we are going to see in this lecture. As we all know, petroleum is a complex mixture of organic liquids called crude oil and natural gas, which occurs naturally in the ground and was formed millions of years ago. They are of little use in their raw state. This crude oil is of little use in raw state, whereas if it is converted to fuels, lubricating oils, waxes, asphalt, petrochemicals, it has enormous amount of uses. The word petro means rock and the word oleum means oil. So we can call this petroleum also as rock oil also. So the other name of petroleum is rock oil. It's thick dark brown or greenish liquid in color. It is also called as black gold. It is also called as black gold. It consists of hydrocarbons, non-hydrocarbons, which include sulfur, oxygen and nitrogen. It also contains some traces of metals such as vanadium and nickel. It also consists of some mineral additions such as water, sand and salt. This petroleum composition occurs in three states, that is solid, liquid and gas. This composition mainly depends on time of formation, storage and migration of substrata. This composition of petroleum consists of carbon of around 86%, hydrogen of around 14%, the remaining being the trace metals, catalyst, etc. Minerals, etc. This slide shows how the petroleum and natural gas formed underneath the earth in the ocean. You can see in the first figure, before 300 to 400 million years ago, tiny sea plants and animals died and were buried in the ocean floor. Over the time, they were covered by the layers of salt and sand. Okay, they are layers of salt and sand. Then the next slide you can see, over millions of years, the remains were buried deeper and deeper. The enormous heat and pressure turned into oil and gas. Enormous heat and pressure which applied on the debris turned into oil and gas. Today we can able to drill the oil from the underneath which are available under the ocean. We can drill and take it for the and can give it for the survival of the humanity and for the living beings, whatever we can use it for them, particularly for the humans, for the vehicles and for transportation, exportation, for anything. We are using this crude oil for multi-purposes. Next, this slide shows where is the oil reserves, where are the oil reserves found in India, not only in India, in the world. So this is based on the world oil reserves, which was taken on the statistics based in the year January 2007. It was listed in the Oil and Gas Journal. You can see on the y-axis it is million barrels, and then the x-axis various countries were listed. Out of the countries given from North America to Asia, you can see Middle East countries are having enormous amount of oil reserves, almost 700 billion barrels, 730 million barrels. The next one is North America, which is having around 200 million barrels. Whereas Central South America, Eurasia and Africa are having 100 million barrels. 100 billion barrels. Asia and Europe are still surviving for oil reserves. Anyhow, we are having the least quantity when compared to the other countries. Indian refineries. You can see during the last decade, significant refining capacity has been added in India through creation of grassroots as well as the expansion of existing refineries. This makes India self-sufficient in oil refining to meet the product demand. The factors responsible for such growth in refining capacity is the excellent growth in overall economic growth as well as to leave a sustainability in requiring energy. With commission of Bathinda and Bina refinery, the total installed capacity of Indian refineries has increased from 213.1 million metric tons per annum increased to 213.1 million metric tons per annum. Okay, among this, Indian Oil Corporation owns 10 refineries out of 22 refineries. With the country in this country with 65.7 million metric tons per annum refining capacity. That means 31% of country's refining capacity comes out of this. 31% of country's refining capacity is with IOC. So the new grassroots, we can see the new grassroots refineries under implementation include Paradigm of IOC and Nagarjuna. This is the right time for the refining industry to take up the challenge and make India a major refining destination in the part of the world. Okay. Now coming on to through which we can able to export the excess products and change over to value added production of petrochemicals, polymers, etc. This slide shows how India refining capacity growth starts from 2000, how it is increased from 2003 to 2017 for the 15 years, from 2003 to 2017, how it got increased. You can see the grey color indicates the private sector units, the red color indicates the public sector units, and the blue color indicates the total numbers. On y-axis, in the x-axis, the years are listed, in the y-axis, numbers are listed 0 to 350. So you can see in the year 2003, the total number of refining capacity is around 117, whereas in the year 2017 it is 311. Now it is still increased. In the past 8 years it has still increased. So you can see at least the refining capacity has doubled in the 15 years. From 2003 it was 117, whereas in 2017 it was 311, almost it gets doubled. So now as on April 2018, India has a total refining capacity of 215 million metric tons per annum. 17 out of total 22 refineries in India belonging to public sector units, remaining private sector units. Next, this statistics, this graph shows the India downstream industry overview. You can see the imports, how the imports and exports are gradually improved. You can see imports are decreased from 97 to 2013, whereas exports increased from 97 in the year 1997, and it is now up to 63.4. It is up to 60. It shows increasing trend up to 63.4 over the past 16 years. That is from 1997 to 2013. Exporter shows the increasing trend, whereas the importer shows the decreasing trend. So since 2002, India has transformed from being a net importer of petroleum products to being a net exporter. Now, in this slide we can see the history of Indian petroleum industry, where the first oil deposits are discovered, what is the current status, everything. So the first oil deposits in India were discovered in Assam in 1889. The government initially subsidized the industry, but in 1991 government began to privatize the industry and enter into joint ventures with private companies. Regarding the current status, India is the second largest refinery of oil in Asia. India is the 7th largest exporter of refined petroleum products, and India's domestic oil production is expected to decline over the medium range. The future of Indian petroleum industry is expected to grow in the coming years because of rising demand, government support, and technological advancements. Exploration. India aims to increase its exploration to 1 million square kilometers by 2030. The government has simplified the approval process for petroleum exploration. Then the refining capacity also is get increased. Energy sources such as, we are using the renewable energy sources such as ethanol and green hydrogen for petroleum. India is also investing in carbon capture technologies. Then India is a key exporter of transportation fuels to market in Asia and the Atlantic basin. Then government has passed policies to support the petroleum industry in the year 2024, and they allotted funds for developing pipeline infrastructure for compressed crude oil gases. This slide shows the composition of crude oil and classification of crude oil. Composition we already seen in the first slide. Classification, it is divided into 3 main types. One is paraffins, naphthenes, and aromatics. Paraffins are the most common hydrocarbons and they are the major constituents. Naphthenes is an important part. Aromatics constitute a small percentage of most crudes. Benzene is one of the most important aromatic in crude oil. This crude oil is normally defined in terms of API gravity. API stands for American Petroleum Institute. The type of hydrocarbon is also present in its classification. The class 1 crude oil are rich in paraffins and they are generally more desirable type of crude oil. Exploration of petroleum oils can be done by means of geophysical exploration techniques, by means of magnetic, gravimetric and seismic and refraction methods. Then by using 2D, 3D reflexive seismic methods, we can do the exploration, geophysical exploration. Under geochemical exploration technique, well logging can be done, coring can be done. Well logging means it's a method of collecting data about the physical properties of subsurface rocks and fluids during oil exploration. It is also known as wireline logging. Coring is the process of extracting the rock and sediment samples from underground to determine the natural gas, presence of natural gas. Then by reservoir engineering we can do, and by drilling. These are all various exploration techniques, both geophysical and geochemical. The last topic which we are going to see in this lecture is the classification of oil reserves. Geologists declare the prospect of deposits into three categories, and mainly called as 3P category. One is proven, probable, second one is probable, third one is possible. Proven means it is worth for economic exploration, that is above 80%. Probable means it has certain degree of probability, about 50%. And possible means it has little probability of economic exploration. These are the classification of oil reserves. So in this lecture, I think you might have get some idea or some clear picture on the Indian petroleum industry, its prospects and futures, and how it's explored, what are the composition, what are the where are the oil reserves associated, and what are the ways and means of drilling. Everything we had seen in this lecture. I thank you for your patience listening on this topic. Thank you.